In light of the unfolding situation in Russia, Ted Cruz is now being mocked pretty mercilessly online after a post of his has resurfaced where he's praising the Russian military while attacking the U.S. military. Back in 2021, he wrote, "Holy crap, perhaps a woke, emasculated military is not the best idea." He said this while sharing an ad that contrasted a Russian military recruitment ad to an American military recruitment ad.
Твоей новой жизни. Что ты знаешь о себе? На что ты способен? Вопросы могут остаться без ответов, но разве ты должен знать себя, познать границы своих возможностей? К черту границы, а без боя нет победы. Но на самом деле, главный враг — это задача выследить врага, догнать его, превзойти, стать лучше, чем он.
It begins in California, with a little girl raised by two moms. I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age. To marry my other mom. With such powerful role models, I finished high school at the top of my class, and after meeting with an Army recruiter, I found it. A way to prove my inner strength. I'm U.S. Army Corporal Emma Malone Lord, and I answered my call.
And of course, this tweet has aged absolutely terribly as the Russian military continues to put its incompetence on full display. Remember, Putin's initial goal was to take over all of Ukraine in a matter of days. Now it's been well over a year and they've still failed to take over Ukraine, and over the last 24 hours, their own hired mercenary group, the Wagner Group, embarrassed Putin even more by marching toward Moscow and taking over Russian cities on the way. But hey, at least their ads look cool, right, Ted? And look, I'm certainly not here to gush over the military and that I pretty firmly believe our defense budget is bloated beyond belief, but the idea that we should criticize the U.S. military for recruiting diverse Americans is patently absurd. We not only have the most diverse military in the world, but the U.S. military is also the most diverse employer in the world, all the while maintaining its position as the strongest military on the face of the earth. So I get that Ted gets to feel like a tough guy by mocking diversity to appeal to the lowest ranks of society, but I would suggest that if he wanted to feel tough, maybe he shouldn't be predicating his entire political career on his fealty to the guy who called his own wife ugly. Just, you know, for starters. Although this really shouldn't come as a surprise, this is a guy who didn't serve and yet feels perfectly entitled to mock those who do. All the while, he just sits around voting against helping Americans while ranting about gas stoves and Target merchandise on his podcast. In fact, he even voted against the PACT Act, giving healthcare to sick veterans because he wanted to use it as a cudgel to exact revenge against Democrats for introducing the Inflation Reduction Act. Talk about some patriotic behavior. So if you didn't already understand where Ted Cruz's priorities lie based on his pandering to the Russian military, then at least his voting record makes it abundantly clear. Consider too, after the backlash to his initial tweet, Ted Cruz doubled down, further attacking the U.S. military for being woke, saying, quote, "I'm enjoying lefty blue checkmarks losing their minds over this tweet, dishonestly claiming that I'm attacking the military. No, we have the greatest military on earth, but Dem politicians and woke media are trying to turn them into pansies. The new Democratic videos are terrible." So apparently, because they're not adequately macho for Ted Cruz, the people who put their lives on the line for their country are pansies, while this guy, seen fleeing to Cancun while hundreds of Texans died in winter storms, is the definition of a strong, rock-ribbed American patriot. Got it. Senator Tammy Duckworth, who actually served her country and lost her legs when the Black Hawk helicopter she was piloting was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade, called out Ted Cruz for his disgusting remarks. Perhaps a U.S. senator shouldn't suggest that the Russian military is better than the American military that protected him from an insurrection he helped foment. She then echoed her claims on air.
Well, first, let's just say that video of this purported video of the Russian military actually was from white supremacist web pages and chat rooms. And so, number one, he is retweeting white nationalist propaganda to begin with. Listen, I would like to hear, and I'm willing to wait to have my colleague explain to me what about the video about the corporal was emasculating or turning the U.S. military into pansies. The fact that it's about someone who graduated at the top of their class joining the military? Is it because it's about a video about someone who had a parent who overcome significant disability and challenges and overcame them? Is it because it is someone who is choosing to use their skills to serve our nation and protect and took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States? I'm willing to wait to hear from Senator Cruz which of those things is turning our military into a pansy. But I doubt that he'll be able to answer me because I don't think he can find a good reason. And frankly, he is way off the mark here. Our military is recruiting the very best to join. And it seems to me that this corporal is among the best.
But we really shouldn't be surprised, given this is what Republicans so often do: praise dictators and autocrats who disregard human rights and democracy, because to them, that's aspirational. To them, what Russia's doing is a sign of strength. And it really couldn't be more detached from reality. Russia is suffering catastrophic losses. The Wagner Group staged what Putin called an armed rebellion, only for Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko to negotiate with the mercenary group leader and likely force severe concessions out of Russia. It was an absolute humiliation for Putin, and no matter what happens going forward, the situation only bodes well for Ukraine as their counteroffensive continues. Here's Adam Kinzinger explaining the connection between recent developments and the far-right MAGA movement.
There will be some instability in Russia, which has nuclear weapons. There's concern about proliferation if the Russian Republic falls apart into even more pieces. I think on the other hand, too, this is extremely good for the war in Ukraine, because even if, as Prigozhin is marching on Moscow, even if that fails, Wagner is out of the fight, and they were a significant part of this effort against Ukraine, not to mention that all around the world, Wagner protects Russian interests, whether it's in Africa, Libya, and other places. This is a massive blow to the Russian Republic, a massive blow to their military effort. And I'll also say it's a massive blow to the people here in the United States, like, say, Tucker Carlson, who have been parroting Putin talking points, to have Prigozhin, the head of Wagner himself, say those have been lies. There have been a lot of people parroting those Putin lies, and the head of Wagner even just said those are lies.
Remember, Russia's war against Ukraine isn't just a war against another sovereign country. It is a war against democracy, a war against human rights, and a war against freedom. Does that sound familiar to a certain agenda being pushed right here in the U.S.? The fact that Ted Cruz and other Republicans can still find ways to hold Russia in high regard is just so emblematic of where they stand. Hell, Donald Trump is still praising Putin as a genius for invading Ukraine.
I went in yesterday and there was a television screen, and I said, this is genius. Putin declares a big portion of the Ukraine. Putin declares it as independent. Oh, that's wonderful. So Putin is now saying it's independent, a large section of Ukraine. I said, how smart is that? And he's going to go in and be a peacekeeper. That's the strongest peace force. We could use that on our southern border. That's the strongest peace force I've ever seen. There were more army tanks than I've ever seen. They're going to keep peace all right. No, but think of it. Here's a guy who's very savvy. I know him very well, very, very well. By the way, this never would have happened with us. Had I been in office, not even thinkable. This would never have happened. But here's a guy that says, I'm going to declare a big portion of Ukraine independent. He used the word independent. And we're going to go out and we're going to go in and we're going to help keep peace. You got to say that's pretty savvy. And you know what the response was from Biden? There was no response. They didn't have one for that. Now it's very sad.
And here's Trump refusing to call Putin a war criminal, despite the fact that his actions have led to countless civilian casualties.
Do you believe that Putin is a war criminal? He's responsible for the deaths of thousands of Ukrainian men and women and
I think it's something that
children.
should not be discussed now. It should be discussed later, because right now we have to get a war. If you say he's a war criminal, it's going to be a lot tougher to make a deal to get this thing stopped. Because if he's going to be a war criminal where people are going to go and grab him and execute him, he's going to fight a lot harder than he's fighting, under the other circumstance. That's something to be discussed at a later date. Right now, we want to get that war settled. And I'm not talking about the money either. I'm talking about all the lives that are the number of people being killed in that war is far greater than you're hearing. When they blow up a city and those buildings come pouring down and then they say 2 people were injured, no, hundreds and thousands of people are being killed, and we have to get that war settled.
All of which is to say, it is beyond clear where Trump stands, and beyond clear where the party that grovels at his feet stands as well. So Ted Cruz will lob out his little insults while scurrying away to the Ritz-Carlton the moment he's faced with an ounce of adversity, but it looks like his heroes over in Russia aren't faring too well either. So maybe the senator from Texas should spend a little less time mocking Americans who don't look like him, a little less time praising dictators, and a little more time actually standing up for the values that he pretends to hold. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.